It's the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This is David Harrison of the Locked On Commanders podcast, here to tell you that U.S. Cellular knows how important your kids' relationship with technology is, and they've made it their mission to help them establish good digital habits early on. That's why they've partnered with Screen Sanity, a nonprofit dedicated to helping kids navigate the digital landscape. And for a smarter start to the school year, U.S. Cellular is also offering a free basic phone on new eligible lines, providing an alternative to a smartphone for children. Start smarter with U.S. Cellular. Visit uscellular.com/built for us to find out more. Terms apply.
We're back, baby, for a big-time Wednesday episode of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. More draft preparation for you served up on today's episode, taking a look at some goaltenders on the rise. Logan, Thompson, Akira Schmid, Kotchetkov, Levi. Who do you need on your team? Tap in, tune in, and find out. Let's get this paper.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, everybody? Thank you for joining us for the Wednesday episode of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. I am joined, as always, by my esteemed co-host, Mr. Steele Roden. And on this side of the microphone, it's your boy, Big Flip Livingstone. Thank you for making us your first listen every single day. We continue to be free and available across all platforms you find your favorite and hottest content. So make sure you continue to smash that subscribe button on YouTube. Drop us a 5-star review wherever you listen to your podcasts. And make sure that you continue to get this fantasy money, Steele. We're hearing the listeners. We see you in the DMs. You had some success last year because you listened to the pod. Much love. That's why we're here. And today's episode is going to hopefully serve you up more of what you need, Steele. Under the radar goalies, some guys ready to be in the prime time, solidify themselves as perhaps the number one option for their teams. Logan, Thompson, Akira Schmid, Kotchetkov, Devon Levi, a whole bunch of others as well, Steele. You know how near and dear this is to my heart. But before we get there, today's episode is brought to you by Jace Medical. Empower yourself when you purchase a Jace case, providing you with a personal supply of 5 antibiotics that treat 50-plus infections. Get yours today at jacemedical.com. That's JASE medical.com. Steele, I'm done with the preamble. Thank you for letting me go off at the mouth there a little bit. This is one of those conversations, though, that if you can get these right, you can get these goalies on the rise, and you don't have to worry about that position because we know how hectic it is to try and fill holes in your goaltending roster. You can take your team over the top very early on in the season. So I'll throw it over to you. Who you taking a look at as some of these perhaps goalies who aren't getting enough respect that are on the rise and ready to make a fantasy impact?
Yeah, the first guy I have on my list, again, like these are guys that are under the radar, potentially ready to make the spotlight. I'm looking at goaltenders that are under 24 years old right now and ready to make that next step in their NHL career. And I'm going to start off with maybe a bold take here, but I'm going to go with Joel Hofer of the St. Louis Blues.
I love
current backup for the Jordan Binnington.
Yes.
And to me, maybe this isn't a huge, giving huge credit to Joel Hofer's game, but more so the instability of Jordan Binnington.
Yep, had to be said.
Back in 2019 when they won the Cup, I believe, 2018 maybe. No, 2018 was Washington. 2019, the St. Louis Blues. Yeah. He comes into the league. He carries the Blues as they were at the bottom of the league and carries them to the Stanley Cup. Very impressive season. But since then, he has got worse and worse every single season so far. He went from a 1.89 goals against average to 3.31 goals against average in the last 5 years. And the same for his save percentage. He was at a 927 save percentage, and now he's all the way down to an 894 save percentage. So it's a lot more about the instability in the chaos that is Jordan Binnington in the crease. He had an okay record last year, 27-6 last season. With that being said, Joel Hofer has shown his talent with the Springfield Thunderbirds in the AHL and the Portland Winterhawks in the WHL. He was 27, 15, and 5 last year with a 921 save percentage. He's still a young goaltender. He's 22 years old. But again, it goes to the fact of you don't really know what Jordan Binnington's going to be this year because of how his NHL career has gone downhill over the last 5 seasons. So I really like Joel Hofer as one of those guys that could come into the spotlight this year.
Steele, you nailed this one, bro. You were saying we might be looking at this a little differently. I think we're looking at this with the exact same. No, with the exact. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. By the way, the flow's looking killer today. If you're not seeing Steele's do right now, you got to head over to YouTube and make sure you're checking out this content. But more importantly, the content that you're bringing here about Joel Hofer. Let's also remember this kid led Canada to World Junior Gold only a couple of years ago. Yeah. He seems to step into the limelight. That's what we're talking about here. I love it. Also, he's young. He made his NHL debut at 21. A lot of goalies develop a lot slower and come into the league at a later age. He's already been in the mix, getting some experience. I know it's not a ton. It's only a few games, but from what we've seen already, very promising. And the main point you covered so nicely, I don't even need to get there. The St. Louis Blues, aside from the next 3 years invested into Jordan Binnington on paper, are ready to move on from this guy because he's been a distraction off the ice. He's been a distraction on the ice. And his poor play has also been a distraction in not the good ways. So let's move on from this because I'm loving it. I wholeheartedly agree. He might not be there just yet because they are still so committed to Binnington in terms of making a big impact. But hey, this is about winning games. And if Hofer's playing better, he's going to start getting some real fantasy looks here. I love it, Steele. Let me get to a goalie quickly that I've mentioned a little bit already in Joseph Woll. And I think that he was kind of pegged as, quote unquote, some guys calling him the goalie of the future. But the time is now for this kid in Toronto, Steele. And I know Samsonov last year was solid. Good regular season numbers. I thought I had them up here, but I'll bring them up in a sec. The point is, we know what happened in the playoffs. He folded a little bit. Joseph Woll, in his 7 games in the regular season, stood on his head. In the postseason, when he was called upon, he played excellent as well. I think this is the kid who gets the most opportunity, Steele, to play also behind a really good team in Toronto. Let's be honest here. This team is going to get a lot of wins. And if Samsonov gets hurt, which we can't predict, but we can predict that he might be up and down like he has been over the course of his career. So I love what I'm seeing from Joseph Woll already. And just the fact that, and this is a trend with some of my other guys on this list for that reason, he's going to get to play on a really good team who's going to win a lot of games. So let's not reinvent the wheel and let's get down to brass tacks here. Joseph Woll is in line to be a fantasy impact this year, waiting in the wings. And I could see 20 to 25 wins under his belt this year, Steele.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think we're both on the same page with this one. I have Joseph Woll on the list. I don't want to say that Ilya Samsonov folded last year in the playoffs because he did get injured. He got run in by Luke Shen, and he got injured. He wasn't able to play after that. But Joseph Woll, you're right.
That might be
comes in and very impressive. Went 16-7 with a 927 save percentage with the Marlies last season. He's been in the Toronto system for so long now. And like you said, there's not a lot to go off of his NHL career, but in his NHL career, he's been 9-2-0 with a 925 save percentage. And like you said, I was fairly impressed with his game when he stepped in relief for Samsonov in the playoffs when he got injured. So we're on the same page here. I think Joseph Woll, again, he's 25 years old. He's ready to take that next step with his hockey career and be that goaltender for the Toronto Maple Leafs with a very strong team in front of him. So I'll just get to my next guy on this list, and I'll try to make it quick before we go over to break. But I'm looking at Dustin Wolf of the Calgary Flames. If Calgary was smart heading into the season, they bring this stud up to the show full time. This kid does not miss whatsoever. 4 seasons in the WHL with the Everett Silvertips, and he has never had his save percentage drop below 928.
Wow.
104, it gets better, Flip. It continues to get better. In 149 games, his record stands at 106, 34, and 4. And his goals against average the last 3 seasons has never been below a 1.88. So this kid is special.
Not bad.
He's still on his entry-level contract. He is ready to make that next step. And again, I haven't even talked about the 2 seasons with the Calgary Wranglers and the Stockton Heat. And for a 7th-round draft pick in 2019, with the stats that he's putting up, it seems like an absolute steal right now. if things go south for the Calgary Flames at the start of the season, which it could most likely, again, very big question mark.
Lots of question marks.
I would be looking, if I were the Calgary Flames, I would be looking to move either Jakob Markstrom or Daniel Verdar and bring this kid up where he belongs.
Yeah, the Calgary Flames, Steele, just before I get to your point, because I'm loving it. He was obviously, there was also a lot of people in Calgary have been calling for this kid to get a look, a real look in the NHL. He might get it. I really do like Vladar as a solid backup. So something's got to give. Something's got to give here in Calgary, which is also one I want to give you kudos to, because if this team gets off to another sluggish start or just plays I think they lost something like 20 plus 1 goal games last year.
Yeah.
And I'll just remember saying this, we watch probably too much hockey, those late night games where you got a parlay going still. And I watched some Flames games and they broke my back and my pocketbook. So I have a lot of question marks at what's going on in Calgary. I love this take, though. This is also, if you're out there listening today, this is perfect for your keeper dynasty. These are goalies that for sure need to be on your radar. If you're a year-to-year league and there's not many GMs, some of the guys we're talking about might not hit your radar. But for those deeper leagues and the keeper dynasty side of things, for sure, all of these guys are relevant, and that's where I want to say with your Wolf take. And I'm on board with it 100%, but my main thing, Steele, it's not even him. It's what do the Calgary Flames do this year? That'll be the big question. We're going to continue to answer some questions right around the break, but we also got to holler at our new sponsors from Jace Medical. Today's episode is brought to you by Jace Medical. Everyone should be empowered to care for themselves and their loved ones during the unexpected. And that's why Jace Medical offers up the Jace Case. The Jace Case provides 5 life-saving antibiotics for emergency use and gives you peace of mind, so you're not just hoping that you have access to medication in emergency, you have it. Jace Medical makes sure you have the medication in hand. Jace Medical is simple. They handle everything from the online evaluation to licensed pharmacy medication delivery and ongoing consultation and care. Don't get caught unprepared. Save more than $360 by getting these life-saving antibiotics with Jace Medical, plus an additional $20 off by using code LOCKEDON at checkout on jacemedical.com. That's JASE medical.com, promo code LOCKEDON.
This is David Harrison of the Locked On Commanders podcast to draw your attention to the taste that's going down in the bread aisle. All thanks to Dave's Killer Bread, bread amplified. Anyone can bake bread, few can rock it, and Dave's Killer Bread is the champion of killer taste, killer texture, and is for those who want to rise above the boring. Organic and healthy doesn't have to mean boring when it's made with the highest quality organic and non-GMO ingredients, packed with whole grains, fiber, and protein. 21 whole grains and seeds bread has a subtle sweetness and a seed-coated crust, while Good Seed products are the boldest and sweetest of all. Dave's Killer Bread was built on the belief that second chances can change lives, because after spending 15 years in prison, not only did the guy with the guitar you see on every loaf turn his own life around, he's helping others to do the same. By hiring the best people for the job, regardless of their background, he's ensuring your mornings no longer taste like cardboard, your taste buds don't have to feel sedated, and your sandwiches can become superstars. Visit daveskillerbread.com to learn more and look for Dave's Killer Bread in the bread aisle of your favorite grocery store.
And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. We are a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your favorite team from all 4 major sports leagues, including the NCAA, your team every single day. And again, like Flip said, make sure you're going to Jace Medical and getting that Jace package right now. It's a crazy world we live in. You got to be safe and secure out there, and make sure you are ready and prepared for anything that is possible. Yep. And I'm ready for this next player, this next goaltender on my list. And you can see him on the list if you're watching on YouTube. It's Pyotr Kotchetkov of the Carolina Hurricanes. I want to start off by saying the last 2 seasons haven't been the best for Kochetkov, for the young Russian goaltender. You and I both know what he's capable of. And I hope that NHL fans and fantasy hockey fans have seen what we've seen as well, because he's very special. He's very talented, but it's hard. Again, when you're behind 2 veteran guys, especially a guy in Frederik Andersen, who's now 33 years old, and Antti Raanta, who's 34, it's going to be hard to get some playing time because they're playing so well. But Andersen, who's still unbelievable in his own right, has also, has a very strong group in front of him on the D core and the forward core as well. but has also struggled with injuries the last 3 seasons. So again, someone who's been up and down with those injuries, it brings that question mark to mind about can you rely on him? Same goes for Antti Raanta, 34 years old. He's been a fantastic perennial backup, but that's just what he is. He is a backup goaltender. And again, he's on that 1-year contract at $1.5 million. Most likely we could see him getting moved or just not re-upping with the Carolina Hurricanes after this next year. I like the fact that Carolina does have 3 goaltenders on the roster because we've seen over the last 2 to 3 seasons teams juggling 4 or 5 goalies. Example, Vegas Golden Knights last year. A few years ago, it was the New Jersey Devils who were going through 4 or 5 goaltenders. Carousel. Even the Ottawa Senators as well a few years back that were going through all those goaltenders. So
the Leafs as well.
Leafs as well. I believe Kochetkov needs more playing time in the NHL.
Of course.
He's only got a few games under him over the last 2 seasons. So, again, getting his confidence up is very key so he can be right-minded when he does become that star goaltender for the Carolina Hurricanes.
This is going to transition very nicely, Steele, into my couple of honorable mentions because the guys that I'm looking at, the 4 that I'm going to mention to make a major impact this year, I mentioned Woll. I got a couple more to get off the chest quickly. Kochetkov, Lukas Dostal, and your boy Hofer were my 3 honorable mentions that I think are very close to making a major impact on the fantasy scene. And if not for the goalies that they're behind, including Dostal and John Gibson in Anaheim, I think they're all ready to make an impact at the NHL level. So I'm right here with you. And you mentioned it. I just don't want to bank on an injury, even though I'm pretty certain it's going to happen to one of those 2 starters in Carolina. Again, though, when he does come in, he was inconsistent at times last year, but he looked great as well. He's already proven he's better than the AHL talent that he's going up against. He's ready for the prime time, and he deserves to be on this list. It's just, do you want to draft him? The answer is no, unless it's the keeper dynasty side of things.
Yep.
But you keep your eyes peeled on this situation in Carolina because also, if it is Freddie that goes down, I think it's going to be much more of a split than just turning it right over to Raanta as being the number 1 guy just because Freddie is out with injury if it is serious. Anyway, Kochetkov, Hofer, Dostal, very close to making an impact. Keep your eye on those guys as well. Let me go to Akira Schmid because we're talking about good situations to win. And I know Vanacek is probably the guy that they want to go to and is probably the guy that's going to get the shot first to be the number 1. But this might be a 1A, 1B situation in New Jersey, Steele. And Schmid was the guy that almost took it for them in the playoffs, and he looked really, really good at times. I think he is just as good as Vanacek, in my opinion. Smaller sample size, but let's also remember, you and I like the blue line in New Jersey. We know that loaded forward group is going to score a lot of goals, and that means good things for the goaltenders just by default. This team is going to win a lot of games, so I really like Akira Schmid and kind of how the angle I've been looking at my guys, Steele, Woll, Schmid, and I got Swayman and Thompson to get to, are all in pretty good situations to win. Aside from maybe Swayman, and we're a little worried about the Bruins, all of these teams, Steele, very good postseason threats that these goalies are going to have good numbers, should be anyway, just by being behind really good squads.
Very, very true. I almost had Akira Schmid on my list as well. I guess he would now fall into the honorable mentions for me. I had to take him off, though, because the way I was looking at it with Akira Schmid was, or Vitek Vanacek more specifically, was the big question mark last year with the New Jersey Devils was, is he consistent? The small sample size of him being that star goaltender with the Washington Capitals, can he do that with the New Jersey Devils and another team? And now that he has done it for 3 seasons in a row now, I believe he is the number 1 goaltender. So even though Akira Schmid will be backing him up and could get the spotlight at some time, I think they believe in this guy because he proved it last year. Just over the last 3 seasons, his first year with Washington, 21, 10, and 4. The next season, 20, 12, and 6. Last year, obviously, incredible season, 33, 11, and 4. Now that he has 3 seasons under his belt, he is that starting goaltender now. He played 52 games. I believe that Vitek Vanacek is better than Schmid right now. Again, I think at some point we could see him get into the spotlight, but that's why he fell into my honorable mentions, just because Vitek Vanacek, to me, has proven himself.
Yeah, aside from his .825 save percentage in the postseason last year and a 4.64 goals against, I'm on board with what you're saying. And I do
that happened. Same thing happened to Linus Ullmark last year, though. He was great in the regular season and then just pooched the bed in the last 4 games against the Panthers.
Which is exactly why I also have Jeremy Swayman on this list to potentially be taking some time away from Linus Ullmark. Just a season that can't be replicated. Anyway, Vanecek is going to get all the chance in the world to be the number one because he has proved himself. But the fact that he actually doesn't have a big track record as well, I know it's much more than Schmid. I just think that this goalie has a lot to offer. And this is where you and I are different on opinions a little bit. But if Vanecek struggles at all, they won't be reluctant to go to Schmid because he's already proved that he can get it done. But I don't think they actually struggle in New Jersey, so maybe that's why your angle on this is probably right, because this team is so good. And very quickly, I just had this up. The Devils' defensive unit allowed the 4th most shots on net last year, and they're only getting better. So that's just even more reason to maybe believe that Vanecek, if he does get that run out, is probably going to get it done. Anyway, I got my eyes on Schmid. I'm pretty sure it's Schmid now, but anyway, Steele, take us to break, pal. I got 2 more goalies, like I said, Swayman and Thompson, because I think both those guys are going to be in line to make an impact fantasy-wise this year as well.
It's still a work in progress with some of these names. We're learning every single day. We'll get it down. Don't you worry about that, all of our listeners out there. Thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Please hit that subscribe. We are almost at 1,000 subscribers on YouTube right now. Follow us on your favorite podcast platform. Leave a 5-star review. And again, if you want to be a part of the Fantasy Hockey Listener League, continue to DM us on Twitter at LO_fantasy NHL. We'll get back to you right away. We will add you onto the list. The cutoff date is September 20th. We are looking at September 27th and September 28th for our draft dates for both the casual and competitive league. Again, if you want to be a part of it, DM us. We'll add you onto the list for the draw. And we are super, super excited about this upcoming season. We cannot wait about these 2 fantasy hockey leagues that we get to do with all of our listeners. So thank you so much for tuning in every single day.
NFL Sunday Ticket is now on YouTube and YouTube TV, which means that you can stay close to your team even if you don't live in their town. Like maybe you're a Raven who married a Seahawk who got a job in the land of the Falcons. With NFL Sunday Ticket, you can watch your team's out-of-market Sunday afternoon games no matter where you live, because you shouldn't have to change teams even if you change towns. NFL Sunday Ticket, now on YouTube and YouTube TV. Go to youtube.com/presale to get $50 off.
Terms and embargoes apply. Offer ends 9/19. No refund. Subscription auto renews.
If you're a business owner, listen up. Your company could be mentioned right here. With the NHL season right around the corner, Locked On has a special locals-only NHL kickoff package. 2 local businesses, yes, only 2 local businesses can sponsor this podcast for the upcoming NHL season. Find out how you can get this exclusive sponsorship and hear your business on this podcast. Text the word advertising to 33777 or visit lockedonpodcast.com/advertising and let us know who you are. Our team will assist you to achieve advertising success with Locked On. Once again, text the word advertising to 33777 or visit lockedonpodcast.com/advertising. We look forward to hearing from you.
I have one goaltender on my list. I know you have 2, so I'll throw it back off to you so you can get to your second guy.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And I think we've covered both of these guys, in somewhat decent detail. Yeah. And I don't think either of these are actually bold, because also and I'll just wrap mine together, Steele. Both with Logan Thompson and with Jeremy Swayman. Yeah, I think headed into the season for obvious reasons. Aiden Hill just won the cup for the Vegas Golden Knights. Linus Ullmark just won the Vezina and took Boston to the best season, one of the best seasons ever. So both of those guys are going to get, again, the run out to be that number 1, but there's 2 guys waiting in the wings here. And even if they don't take the lion's share of the games, which I really do expect Swayman to do, and Logan Thompson is going to push Aiden Hill for a good amount of starts in Vegas as well, I think both of these goaltending situations are, at a bit of a tipping point. And what's going on with the Boston Bruins, I'm not as confident in saying. I'm sure that they're going to be a successful team because I think the numbers are going to go down for both Swayman and Ullmark overall, which is a tough sell here when you're trying to say target these fantasy pieces. Swayman was 24-6-4 last year, Steele, with 4 shutouts and a 2.27 goals against and a .920 save percentage. So he was a star. Those numbers are going to go down because I think the Bruins are going to struggle a bit. But the Vegas Golden Knights should still be one of the top 3 teams in that division. I think you and I are on page with that.
Yep.
And Logan Thompson kind of saved this team at times, along with Laurent Boissat and all the other goaltenders that were in the mix. But 21-13-3, .915 save percentage. There's a lot to like about this kid's game. And I think, given the small track record with Adin Hill, even though he's now a Stanley Cup winner and played sensationally for them down the stretch, I really don't think that's fully Adin Hill's job all the way through. Same with Linus Ullmark. So I'm taking a look at both Logan Thompson and Jeremy Swayman in the back end of my draft, taking them as a little insurance policy. And if things don't work out how I think they might not, you're going to have a number 1 goaltender on your hands, at least by the numbers side.
Look, the great thing about that situation, especially for the Vegas Golden Knights, is we know that Logan Thompson is talented, but the fact that you have Adin Hill there and he's capable of stepping up in that spotlight and taking over those games for the Vegas Golden Knights and getting the job done, that's the great thing. I agree with you. Logan Thompson is right there. And again, now that Adin Hill has that Stanley Cup championship under his belt, very impressive postseason, it's still going to be a battle in the crease for both Adin Hill and Logan Thompson. So I'm there with you. It's going to be a horse race. It's going to be a photo finish for both those players, for both those goaltenders. Wholeheartedly, I agree with Jeremy Swayman as well. The kid's special. Like you said, the record proves itself. The stats prove itself. And, with what's going on in Boston right now, losing some of their top players, they still have David Pastrnak. They have Brad Marchand. They got Charlie McAvoy on the back end. But can Linus Ullmark do that again without Patrice Bergeron and David Krejci in front of him, and a different team in front of him as well, because they lost a few defensemen as this offseason too.
They got a lot slower as well, Steele.
They did get a lot slower. They bring back Milan Lucic, which is going to be incredible to see. It's going to be incredible to see Lucic back in a Boston Bruins jersey. I'm not a Bruins fan, but I am excited that he is wearing the Bruins jersey.
First Ryan Reeves, Milan Lucic fight. That's going to pop off. It's going to happen. That's actually going to add a very intriguing wrinkle to that Boston-Toronto rivalry. And I think you and I could probably sit here and talk about this for an hour and a half or 2 hours, how excited we are for the season. But why don't you finish it off with your last guy that you're looking at?
Yeah, last guy on my list. We've talked about him a little bit, or I know I've talked about him a lot, but it's Devon Levi of the Buffalo Sabres.
Yeah.
And I know we are somewhat at a difference about what we expect this upcoming season.
Somewhat.
The small sample size that he has under his belt. But in my eyes, he is exactly what the Buffalo Sabres need to send them over that hump. They have their young superstars in Dahlin, Tage Thompson, Dylan Cousins. They even have more in the chamber with Owen Power, J.J. Paterka. They draft Zach Benson, Yuri Kulik as well, and Devon Levi gets his moment. They don't even really have anyone else to turn to anyways, but he is that guy. I know they got Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, but to me, Devon Levi is that guy that they need, and he's going to take them over the hump. And that's why, again, a few episodes ago, I had the Buffalo Sabres squeaking in or making it into the postseason with that second wild card spot, or even the first wild card spot, because of how talented this young core is. They have Alex Tuck, who's now a veteran. Jeff Skinner's a veteran, and Rasmus Dahlin. And we had that question on our YouTube channel that we just saw again. Who do you take after Cale Makar? Are you pursuing Rasmus Dahlin? Or are you taking Roman Josi or Dougie Hamilton? And you said it perfectly. I'm targeting Rasmus Dahlin because of all the peripherals that he brings and the upside. And again, barely scratching the surface right now. So they've got so much young talent. They've got the veterans. They bring in a couple of blue liners that I really like as well. I believe Connor Clifton and Eric Johnson being one of them or two of them. But again, I just have so much belief in Devon Levi and what he's done at at Northeastern University and before that at Carleton Place Canadians. I think this kid's special, and he's ready to make that commitment to the NHL and be in that spotlight.
I'm not even going to disagree with you at all, Steele. I think the only thing that I look at is he's still a rookie goaltender. And everything you're saying fully lines up. The only thing is when the going gets tough and you got to go up against Austin Matthews, the Ottawa Senators, and Florida Panthers in this division, not even going to talk about the Tampa Bay Lightning. And I mean all year long. I just want to see it from him for a full season. And then I'm not even going to say another word about this because everything else you said is on point. And he is looking very ready to be the guy that the Buffalo Sabres have needed for a very long time. And I think Sabres fans are very excited, and they should be, because this is really one of the missing pieces that this team has lacked for a long time. I've just said it. But that's my only concern about this team. Is he going to go through some growing pains? The likelihood is yes.
Yes.
And that means that given how good the rest of the teams are around him, that I think they just miss out. But that's just the difference of a few points, because you're right. The rest of this team is so for real and one of the best young cores in the business, and you explained it all. So I'll just leave it at that, because I'll say this. Hockey season is here, baby. It's getting a little chilly down in the Niagara region, but I'm getting warmed up, and I cannot wait to continue all of our content and prep for these drafts, Steele. It's going to be awesome.
So much more to talk about. I'm very excited for another edition. Again, we're going to release this closer to the season, but another edition of our 5 bold predictions for this upcoming season. I wonder what Flip's going to say. Who knows if Flip's going to agree with what I have to say, because I know I'm very bold with some of those predictions out there. They're a little out there. But again, thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Make sure you're tuning in Monday through Friday, 7 o'clock in the morning Eastern time is when you can find all of our episodes on YouTube and your favorite podcast platform. So again, thank you so much for tuning in for today's episode with Flip and I. Have a great day. Good luck with all your bets out there. Hockey season is almost upon us. We shall see you back here again tomorrow.
Peace.
If you're a business owner, listen up. Your company could be mentioned right here. With the NHL season right around the corner, Locked On has a special locals-only NHL kickoff package. 2 local businesses, yes, only 2 local businesses can sponsor this podcast for the upcoming NHL season. Find out how you can get this exclusive sponsorship and hear your business on this podcast. Text the word advertising to 33777. or visit lockedonpodcast.com/advertising and let us know who you are. Our team will assist you to achieve advertising success with Locked On. Once again, text the word advertising to 33777 or visit lockedonpodcast.com/advertising. We look forward to hearing from you. Hey, Prime members, you can listen to this Locked On podcast ad-free on Amazon Music. Download the Amazon Music app today.